Morning, all. My name is Davi, serve as lead pastor here at Rock Creek Church, and I am excited to be praising our Lord with you all this morning. There is a question that many coaches, or maybe all coaches, have tried to answer. That is, what's the good life? What is the good life? So for some people, good life is found in wisdom and virtue. For others, in duty and public service. There is also liberation from cycle of rebirth, liberation from suffering, moral harmony, enlightenment, harmony with nature. More recently, some thinkers have associated the good life with self-creation, with self-given purpose, with living authentically, finding well-being through meaning, relationships, and engagement. Others see the good life embedded in social practices and shared values. And I'm just mentioning this to show you how humanity has occupied itself with this thought. What's the good life? How do we get it? As we turn our attention to the book of Ecclesiastes, this is the fourth sermon on this series. It seems that the teacher, as he calls himself, the preacher, teacher, it seems that he's doing something similar. It seems that he's conducting this research, this experiment. So in the book of Ecclesiastes, the teacher has applied his mind to observing, exploring, testing, and studying life under the sun. If we see this, go back to chapter 1:13. I applied my mind to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. I apply my mind. And he keeps going from there. Chapter 2, come now, I'll test you with pleasure to find out what is good. Verse 12, then I turn my thoughts to consider wisdom and also madness and folly. So he's testing these things. He's testing wisdom, wealth, work, pleasure, knowledge, to see if there is any meaning, any substance, any ultimate fulfillment in all of these things. We've been covering that so far. And then he keeps asking this question, what do people gain from all their toil under the sun? What do they gain? Generations come and go, and all things are wearisome. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear of its fill of hearing. There is nothing new under the sun. And as he conducts this experiment, the conclusion he has been arriving at is, it is all meaningless. It is all vapor. It's all smoke. It's all incomprehensible. It's uncontrollable. It's ungraspable. It's all ungraspable. Have you tried to grasp smoke and control it? It's not possible. All the knowledge, things that the teacher has observed, all the knowledge doesn't save people. It actually brings sadness in some ways. Being able to give to oneself all that one's eyes desire. Some people think that's the answer. He says, no, actually doesn't solve the problem. Accomplishing much doesn't help with lasting joy or satisfaction. This is what we've been noticing and reading so far. And in our passage for today, he observes the following, for verses 12 to 16. The teacher observes that wisdom is indeed better than folly, than foolishness. It is better. Just as light is better than darkness, it is as if the wise has eyes in their heads while the fool walks in darkness. So on the one hand, yes. However, the crux of the verses is wisdom is better than foolishness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes the wise and the fool. That's death. This is verse 15. The fate of the fool will overtake me also. he says. What then do I gain by being wise? If I apply wisdom, if I'm wise, I'm going to die like the fool is going to die. Death will come. So wisdom is not good enough. It is not sufficient to providing everlasting life. Both die. If I pursue wisdom and look to control and find meaning in it, it's vapor. The fool and the wise will be forgotten. Both die, and this is verse 16. For the wise like the fool will not be long remembered. The days have already come when both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise too must die. So death and time will make sure to erase all our works. And then the author moves to our second part here for today. Here is what it follows. After consider all these things, his reaction, so I hated life. I hated life. Because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated life. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun. They are meaningless. They don't make sense. Because not only I die like the fool, but I must leave what I've conquered to the one who comes after me. That's his rationale. I can take it. I can't take my works. I can't take my wealth with me. I must leave it all behind. And who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish. All the hard work. The one who comes after me will have control of all the fruit of my toil. Can you imagine that? Can you hear the desperation in his voice? And he's not wrong. Let me give you a few examples. The Vanderbilt family. Cornelius Vanderbilt. He built a massive shipping and railroad empire, becoming one of the richest Americans in history with a 100 million fortune in 1877. Roughly 2 billion for us today. Within 50 to 70 years of his death, his descendants spent the fortune on mansions, yachts, and by 1937, no single member of the family was a millionaire. No single member of a 2 billion fortune was a millionaire. The sixth generation descendant had no trust fund left to pass down. Another example, Maureen O'Connor inherited 105 million from her late husband. This was not even children, it was the partner. The founder of Weight Watchers. Nearly a decade later, due to gambling addiction, everything was gone. 105 million. And as I was reading about this, there is this famous third generation curse. It's stating that 90% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the third generation. 90% of wealth families lose their fortune by the third generation. So he's not wrong. All my work. Who knows if a fool will inherit all that? There is no control there. Not in life, not in death. All the anxiety, all the sleepless nights, all the grief, the pain, the anguish, the agony are not enough to satisfy us because they don't guarantee anything. All the results of our toil, our labor, they stay here under the sun. And then verse 22, he asks again, what do people get for all the toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? This phrase caught my attention. What do they gain for all the anxious striving, the anxious pursuit which they labor under the sun? All the sleepless nights, as he says here, all the grief and the pain. So the teacher shares his heart. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun, over the meaninglessness of life under the sun, despite over despair over the vapor, the lack of control, the chasing after smoke, the chase after the wind. There is this what is next mentality. We ask, as if the next endeavor, the next relationship, the next vacation, the next job, the next child, the next Netflix series, the next partner, or the next politician would solve everything. At some point, we fall in despair, trying to grasp the smoke in frustration. So, teacher, is that it? The author here moves to a suggestion for us. Verses 24 and 20 to 26. I'm going to read 24, 25 now. He says, a person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. These two, I see, is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? So there is an alternative way of life. Here, the teacher shifts to this call of enjoyment. Eat and drink is not seen as specific activities only of eating and drinking, but as a posture of enjoyment. It's not about not working, but it is about finding satisfaction in our own toil, no matter what it is, whether changing diapers, studying, running the country. So I want to focus on this call to enjoyment with the final minutes we have now here. How can we enjoy? Doesn't this sound like when someone comes to you and you are sharing a concern, you are worried about something, and someone comes to you and says, yeah, don't worry. Doesn't that sound like that? Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy life. How is that possible? How can we stop this anxious striving? So the author is building up something here. We're not going to solve all the tension here today. We still have a few more weeks. But I want to show you two things for us to consider this morning. How can we enjoy? How can we stop this anxious striving, this anxious pursuit? First thing that we see here in this passage is the difference between gifts and meaning makers. Seeing life and these things as gift versus as meaning makers. The word for finding satisfaction here, verse 24, is literally seeing good. Seeing good. So in other words, there is no good among humanity except that they should make themselves see good. This is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? So there is a vast difference between seeing wisdom, knowledge, achievement, work, pleasure as gifts and not as what will ultimately give meaning to our lives. He's not contradicting himself here, saying that this is all meaningless, now enjoy. There is a difference in seeing them as gifts and seeing them as meaning makers. When I believe that my achievements will give me meaning in life, will give me lasting joy, I enter into this anxious striving, this anxious pursuit, because I feel a bit good about achieving something, right? Because of that, I think I need to achieve more. And I enter into this cycle of more and more. I want to achieve more. I need to achieve more. And we try that with many other things, like the teacher is telling here. But when we enter into a relationship with the giver, when I consider what he has done in providing for me through his son, that realization, that experience, that awareness enables me, sets me free to enjoy them as gifts. So the question is, how does our anxious striving fade away when we realize that work, pleasure, wealth, wisdom, all those things are not meaning makers, but rather are gifts from the one who is able to fulfill us? How can your college experience improve when you realize that the diploma will not guarantee joy? How would your parenting change, seeing your children as gifts from God rather than channels through which you satisfy your life? How would work be different? How would retirement be different? How would your mourning be different if you move towards thanking God for the gift of life instead of having to make the day count? Because I am in a relationship with the giver, I don't need to pursue these things anxiously. I can enjoy them as gifts. Second, how can we enjoy? This is foundational. Surrendering before God versus being our own God. A good portion of our anxious striving is about trying to control, trying to grasp life, right? It is easier to say, okay, to have a meaningful life, I need a degree. It is partially okay to pursue and to say, I can do that. If I have I can do that. So you go for it. It's partially controllable if you say, I will have meaning in life if I have a partner, and then you go after them. And this is the foundation of our anxious striving, is trying to control, to grasp life, but the teacher is teaching us it is all smoke. Trying to control life, trying to control your legacy is the same thing as trying to grasp smoke again. We are not gods. We don't know what we need. We don't know how much we need them. We don't find life in ourselves. And here I want to focus on the sovereignty of God, because that's what the author starts to talk about. And next week we're going to see it more. Two places. First, the last verse of this passage, 26. The author finishes this passage by saying, to the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. This is definitely not a formula of cause and effect for us to try to manipulate God. Trying to please God through our effort. Notice that he ends the sentence with, this is also meaningless. In this context, meaning, this is not controllable, this is not graspable, this is not comprehensible. The author is stressing God's sovereignty here. He gives to those who please him. And he can take what the fool has gathered to give to the one who pleases, to the one whom he pleases. God is sovereign. And the second thing here, if we go back one verse, it says that a person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. These two, I see, is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? These two what? Being able to see good, being able to find satisfaction, being able to enjoy these things is from the hand of God. Also, what else? What is he talking about? The immediate context here suggests despair is from the hand of God. And if we keep looking back to this book, the only place, looking back, not forward, the only place we see God being mentioned here is in the first chapter, verse 13. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. But why? Why? The author is saying two things are from the hand of God up to this point. One, a heavy burden he has laid on mankind. And second, the ability to enjoy, to see these things as gifts and to enjoy. It's a very broad and hard job to provide a comprehensive answer, but one of the things that we see here is that the first thing serves as a post sign to us, to humanity, reminding us that there is more to life than chasing the wind, pointing people to the one who is above, the sun. Despair is part of the process of the gospel. On our journey to grasp the gospel, despair is part of it and needs to be part of it. When we realize that our work won't produce life, when we realize that the satisfaction we get out of things under the sun, they don't last. It doesn't last. And perhaps they were meant to be this way, as the author suggested. When we realize that there's this despair that fills our hearts, that I believe it is part of the process. I remember when I was in a conference a few years ago, and the preacher was talking about the Ten Commandments. And during that time, I said, well, I'm going to save for later. I'm going to get these 10 commandments, and once I'm back in the room, I'm going to read them, and I'm going to see which ones I need to pay attention to. Then, in the middle of the sermon, the conviction of the Spirit filled my heart, and I realized it's all of them. It's all of them. And a sense of despair filled my heart. That's exactly what I'm saying. It is part of the process. It needs to be part of the process. Otherwise, we don't grasp what Jesus has done for us. So the burden is part of the process. It's from the hand of God, and the ability to enjoy as gifts, it comes from the hand of God. It's really, what if the agony serves to unveil the reality that something is missing for us? What if the despair is an invitation to surrender? What if those things, the void, is pointing to the one who can fill the void? This week I heard, I watched a video. I didn't want to show you guys, but I have the exactly quote. So this guy is called Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you know him. He's an American neuroscientist from Stanford University. So he hosts a very popular Huberman Lab podcast. That's how it's called. His podcast consistently ranks number one in health and fitness. His YouTube channel has over 7 million subscribers. Scientist, neuroscientist. And this is what he said. The one thing that I wish I had done earlier was to stop resisting the voice in my head that said, I think there is a God and I'm going to pray. I kept pushing that away. It was incompatible with my notion of what it meant to be a scientist. It was just incomparable with things. And I just kept pushing down and at the same time wishing for it. I'm 50 now. And for the first time in my life, my entire life, I have experienced a sustained time of real, deep peace. I wish it is because I stopped fighting. It is because I stopped fighting so hard to try to control everything inside me and in my life. And as a consequence, everything became much easier, still challenging, but much easier. And it is 100% because of giving over to the notion of high power. I'm very direct about this, saying that it is God, this high power for me. Surrendering before this sovereign God enables us to enjoy these things, to enjoy what He gives us. And this is our summary statement, the big idea for us today. The good life is only possible through a relationship with the one above the sun. It's only possible through a relationship with the one above the sun. Our insatiable soul needs an unlimited God. So let me pray for us this morning. God, I want to thank you for your word. This is your word. And even though so many times it's hard to understand, it's not comfortable to read. This is your word. Lead us, convict us, show us the way to yourself. I pray for my heart, for everyone here and those watching later. Lord, lead us to this place of surrender. Lead us to this place of realizing that through our anxious strive, we won't be able to get it. By your grace, Lord, show yourself to us. Call us, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.